perspective, but in terms of market knowledge, right? And they make that available to us. And that's, you're like, wow, okay, that's cool. They don't even know who they know. So they literally have a full-time concierge in the Accelerator who looks at your business model, and their job is one thing: to help you figure out who in Microsoft you need to meet, and they set the meetings up for you. Right? To me, that's probably the most important thing we can get out of the Accelerator. Right? So in my business, I met with the CTO of all their CRM businesses. I met with the senior VP of sales who thinks about marketing CRM, and the CMO of their CRM business. Right? And the engineers who've written the roadmap. Right? And it's not because I found it. I have concierges saying, who do you want to see? Let me figure out how to tell your story and set the meetings up for you. Right? Because once again, 200,000 people with a phone book, not particularly helpful. But a guy who's going to help you get meetings with those people and initiate collaborations, hugely, hugely helpful. So when I go back to comparing Microsoft as an accelerator versus Techstars Launchpad, where they're not affiliated with a platform, you can't do that in kind of an independent accelerator. Who are they going to call, right? In Microsoft, you get 200,000 people to call, somewhat overwhelming, but with a concierge there who's helping you do that, and Tim Enger, who does that, doing an extraordinary job. So, technology, kind of resources, frankly, credibility. So in my business, we've moved and we've kind of changed our business model to be less to individuals and more into large enterprises. Right? If I show up with a large business and I say, hey, I'm Andy Wilson from Rexter, I have a 6-person startup in Los Angeles, we want to help power your CRM system for your 2,000 salespeople, they say, that's real nice, thanks for your time, we'll be in touch, and they kind of push you out the door. Now I show up and I say, hey, we're working with Microsoft, we're in their Accelerator program, we're integrated with Microsoft Dynamics, which is the leading technology for large enterprises. I'm here on a call with the guy from Microsoft who represents your account, and he's like, what is your roadmap for the problems you have? Where does Rexter fit in? And we immediately get into the CTO and the head of sales. Right? So change the conversation by leveraging the brand that is Microsoft. Okay. So what's neat about all this, and you can think how this is helpful to my business. Right? Put yourself in my shoes. Oh, that's pretty cool. Right? We're kind of this struggling small company. We have free stuff, we have credibility, Microsoft brand. We get a vacation for my kids for 4 months. That's not it, right? It has been a hardship from that perspective. And the piece that's most surprising is when you get to Microsoft, for the guy who's the concierge who sets me up. Right? You're thinking, gosh, I'm going to sit with. So let me describe one meeting to you. So I'm sitting with Mike Ehrenberg, and there is a concept at Microsoft called a distinguished scientist. Must have a PhD, must have published so many patents, right? They're like the Nobel laureates at Microsoft. And most of them are CTOs and architects for a piece of their business. So I'm sitting with Mike, he's the CTO for all their Dynamics technology, which is their kind of ERP, CRM, general ledger technology. It's probably add that stuff up, $10 billion business for them. And he has 3 other guys, architects with him. And I'm talking about my crappy little company. Right? And they're sitting in there and they're actually really, rather than saying, oh yeah, we could do that in a heartbeat, like, oh, that's really clever, we hadn't thought about that, and talking about how this could work with their technology. Right? And whether, how we take advantage of that, we need to see how that plays out. But the fact that you actually could have a conversation with somebody who is so extraordinarily well positioned in a market you want to be in, and they're treating you like a collaborator, I thought was really kind of blew me away. Right? That's not the Microsoft arrogance I had come to expect. Right? And I think that the last thought I'll leave you with is, so the current CEO of Microsoft is Satya Nadella. Satya took over from, who knows, Steve Ballmer. And from what I can tell, they're probably not 2 different people, and more different people. Has anyone seen Satya like on CNN or on, I mean, he's like Yoda, like Zen. And Steve Ballmer, you don't think about Yoda, you think about, I don't know, Incredible Hulk. Pouring sweat, yelling, and the transformation around a company that's very inwardly looking and kind of bombastic, which I'll say is the Ballmer regime, to the current one today that's really humble, maybe overstating it, but I would say at least open-minded. It has really blown me away, right? Because my expectation was I was a little plaything, right? I was in a little startup they're going to poke around and have fun with, and they really wouldn't take us seriously, and they truly have. And I think that's makes me optimistic. So first about the prospects of my own company, right? But also about the prospects of Microsoft, right? And my realization, having been in the business world, is hubris and arrogance for any big company is the time to short the stock. Short the stock, right? If you think you've solved all the problems, you're in trouble, right? And one last anecdote I'll tell about on that front is in my business, one of the key partners we engage with is LinkedIn. Okay? Professional networking, LinkedIn. I don't know if people ever have any businesses that engage with LinkedIn, but they used to have a very open, collaborative API business where they connect with third-party applications. As of January of this year, they closed off their API to all third parties. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. And I happen to know a bunch of folks who are in senior positions at LinkedIn from my time as being at Yahoo. And I call them up and I said, Scott, what the heck, what's going on? I said, well, two things. One is we have no one who owns LinkedIn as a platform. No one owns LinkedIn as a platform. We have business people who own product lines and revenue, but no one owns LinkedIn as a platform. So thinking about how APIs and third-party applications enrich the platform, it's on no one's metrics. Okay, that's interesting. And I said, okay, so what else is going on? I said, well, we have people who have product line ownership and revenue goals for their specific products, and they're concerned that startups may be cannibalizing some of their revenue. I'm like thinking, my little crap company is cannibalizing LinkedIn's revenue that's, $800 million a quarter. And what that tells me is they're kind of pulling the moats up, right? They're pulling the moats up. And I remember this conversation in January because I was a little irritated by it. In part, I really love LinkedIn as a company, so I'm like, guys, you're losing your mind. Like, here's Andy and Pastor, you're losing your mind. And their market cap's $20 billion. So I know they totally changed their strategy because of my conversation. Not. Like, click, delete. But the point being is that they basically decided that little companies didn't matter, right? And I don't know if anyone's kind of a stock tracker here. What happened to LinkedIn stock price a week and a half ago? Dropped 30%. Okay, they lost $8 billion in market cap because they missed the revenue number, right? And I could tell by the conversations I was having with their product line people that they were kind of squeezing out pennies, right? Trying to make the number. Right? And if you're a billion-dollar company, of course, I hate to say it, the pennies are not going to get you there. And I think part of this is thinking strategically around how you build relationships to empower your business as a platform. When you get to be a billion-dollar company, you better be a platform company, right? And you start turning off the valve to build a platform, you're in trouble. And I think Microsoft had started doing that. And I think this cultural change has got them thinking more differently again, right? So I'm bullish on Microsoft. Right, I've had a great experience, and it was a bit ironic. So I was sitting down. So we have a mentor, a guy named Brett Brewer, who is the GM for Microsoft Project. Does anyone in the room ever use Microsoft Project to use technology? Okay, that interesting tool, right? There you go. It's painful. So let me tell you about Microsoft Project, and this is my last story because I could keep going. So Microsoft Project is a $1.4 billion revenue line for Microsoft. It generates $1.25 billion in profit. Wow. Highest profit margin business they have, right? And it's not SaaS-based, it's totally like client, wonky, geeky. I mean, if you're building airplanes, you use it, right? And Brett is like, we have a good collaboration. And I was talking to Brett, I said, Brett, what the hell's going on at Microsoft? And I'm like, this company seems like a legitimate company again. And he said, yeah, well, first of all, Satya blew out about 18,000 people who were the old guard, right? That happened about a year ago. And it's funny, you think about that was like a cost management. It's like, no, it was cultural change. Blew out people. It's like these people are the old guard and they're in the way of us, thriving. First of all, surviving and then thriving. And then I said, secondarily, how can a guy in 1 year change the perception of a company that has worked so hard to make itself so obnoxious? Right? And you know what he told me? And I thought it was great. And I think this is true for businesses. He said all he had to do was give people who had an appetite to change the opportunity to change.
Wow.
Right? And I thought that was profound, right? It's like, so there was, Steve Ballmer had repressed tens of thousands of people. Tens of thousands of people, keep beating them into submission. And Satya said, that strategy does not work. Does not work in a world where we have to collaborate, engage others in building a business. And so Satya, there were obvious targets, so he cleared those people out, right? And I'm sure there's some holdovers. It's hard to find them all at once. There are probably some people who are on the bubble, right? Hey, can they change behavior? And I think more importantly, and what I think has me excited at Microsoft is that the army, the vast majority of people in Microsoft are collaborative and looking to do the right thing and understand the nature of technology and what it takes to be successful in 2015, which is not what it took to be successful in 2000 and 1990. So I'm not a stock picker, but if I were, and if I hadn't put all my money in my own company, I would be going long at Microsoft, because I think cultural change and mindset is a very strong kind of early indicator of kind of business success, right? And I think we all can take that back to our own companies, right? What is the mindset we need to be successful? And then how do we operationalize it in what we do every day in terms of the practice of business, right? Because if you can't practice the right business if you don't have the right mindset. And what struck me, and once again, I was a cynic, right? I got to Microsoft, I'm like, I literally told my wife, hey, don't worry, it's 4 months, I'm gonna go up there, there's gonna be a bunch of, I won't use the word, and I'll be home in 2 weeks. I have an apartment up there, I've been up there, and I actually look forward to going up there, right? Because there's extraordinary, talented people that have a mindset that I can relate to, and they're making their resources and their know-how available to a scrappy little company in Pasadena. So I'm super bullish. It's been a real pleasure to be there. So they are going to be asking, they will start recruiting for a new cohort of startups relatively soon. I understand it's going to be focused on digital work again. So anyone who has a startup that's, has to have a little bit of a product, right? You can't be a $10 million funded venture company and you can't be just an idea. So if you have a company that has product in market with some people that you think could leverage the know-how that's Microsoft, they will be asking for applications probably in the next 2 or 3 months. And if you contact me, I'd be happy to chat with you for a few minutes. And if I think what you're doing is legitimate, I will make the connection and kind of make sure you get some attention. So that's a little bit about my time up in Microsoft. So why don't I take some questions? Do we have another microphone?
We've got another mic for you here.
Okay.
We'll pass this around.
Okay, thanks. So, yep.
So we'll pass this mic around. John, we'll walk around. Raise your hand if you have a question. Stand up, say your name, what your company is, and ask a question. We'll leave commentary and advice for Andy for after the meeting. So here you go, John.
Good morning, Andy. This is Eric. I'm a mobile app developer. So in our company, we have 2 divisions. One is the Microsoft division, which people just laugh at, and then we got our cool Linux division. But like you said, I do see Microsoft being cool again. But it's an integration problem, right? Because Linux and Microsoft, they don't mix well. And if I want to tap into a lot of API that's on the cool side, I can use Microsoft. So what's your take on that?
Yeah. So you reminded me of another aspect. So under Steve Ballmer, if you showed up with an iPhone, he'd literally grab it from your hand and throw it out the window. Okay. Now, probably a quarter of the people I interact with at Microsoft have non-Microsoft technology, right? So they realize 2 things. One is that they don't always have the right technology, right? They haven't solved all the problems. And I think they've also realized that in order to understand what technology look like, they need to use products that are considered leading edge products, right? So they're kind of, how do I learn what the problems are to make them better? Yeah, their technology is probably not as open as it should be, right? I think they've certainly struggled a lot with their mobile business. I think their real focus is around cloud computing, right? Azure, those things. I think it's gonna be real hard to say, hey, on a mobile side, is the Microsoft operating system going to be one that I would spend lots of time on? They have not forced us. I keep trying to get free Microsoft products. My kids want free Xboxes, but that hasn't happened yet. But they have not they try to educate us, but not compel us. The thing that they're most proud of is Azure, right? And that's one reason some people may have known that they were in serious conversations with Salesforce about potentially buying Salesforce for $55 billion. And I think my guess at the end of the day, it got too expensive, and Salesforce has really become more of a platform company, right? Force.com, they have their own CRM business. I think part of the challenge was that Microsoft worked real hard at building Azure as a platform, right? And so I think having two platforms probably at the end of the day squelched that deal. But mobile, they're definitely not a leader in mobile, and they know that. I think they've struggled with that front, and they know it. Our primary platform is Android, right? Not because most people have Android, it's the easiest to work with, right? You're an innovator. What I would suggest to innovators and technology choices, sometimes choose the platform that allows you to get to market first and understand what's going on. And then once you figure it out, then you can go to the platform where people are once you've solved the problem, right? So quick iterations and platforms that are friendly to iterate, then go where the market is, because you can be solving the wrong problem in a very hard way, right? And anyway, so I don't know if I really answered your question or not, but we'll take another one.
Over here.
Yeah, my name is Mike Williams of World Mentoring Academy. For those people that aren't in the Microsoft program, can you speak to the Azure's BizSpark program?
So BizSpark is your entry-level program for startup companies. There's some requirements around how much capital you've raised, and I don't really know what this
1 million, lower less.
Okay, less than $1 million?
Less than 5 years.
Less than 5, oh good. It wouldn't come and help me out?
$50 a month.
$150 a month.
Credit.
Okay. So I think part of it is, my guess is they will probably enrich that program, right? And people ask me, I'll answer my own question is, why does Microsoft do this? Why does Microsoft screw around with companies like mine, right? And I think the primary reason is we're a little bit like lab rats. They don't treat us that way, right? They're not like poking us with electrodes. But you think about having 14 of the most innovative startups that they've determined, in the fact that we're talking with the CTO for Azure, and we're talking about questions and how they plug in with their APIs. They're like, ooh, these are real companies asking real questions, right? So trying to get more insight around how startups choose technology and what their priorities are, right? I think that's the number one reason, right? And we're part of, the Accelerator is part of what they call DX, which is developer evangelism, right? So getting people on platform. In the old Microsoft would say, how would they have developed a new product? They get a bunch of PhDs from Microsoft and say, here's what people need. The new Microsoft is, let's get 14 of the best companies in the world around digital work and see how they work and then see how we can help them. Very different strategy, right? It works out well for the lab rat and for the researcher. Yes, and back.
Hi. So how much of their strategy with the Accelerator do you think is actually viral, and it's this? And it's having meetings like this, and how much do you think the selection of the firms that they choose are affected by how well networked the firms are and how sort of tied into things as opposed to a pure technology business strategy?
Yeah, your question would maybe assume they're smarter than perhaps they are in some of this. I think it's more around companies they think are going to be successful in helping them get educated around how Microsoft can help them. So it's about technology choices. And I think they were surprised, as I told the guy who runs our program, I said, give me some bullet points around the program. And by the way, I forgot to say, something like 85% of the companies that go through the Accelerator get funding within 9 months, and an average is $2.6 million. Okay, I mean, they gave me all these stats, right? So, but I haven't talked about that because, I think that's an outcome of a program working, right? Those are metrics. Their view is, when I told them I was going to speak here, they were surprised, right? So I don't think they really thought about kind of the viral aspects of the evangelism of the program. And the only reason I'm sitting here is not because I think Microsoft's a great company, it's because of the disconnect between what my expectations were and what reality was. To me, that's what's striking.
That's the reaction of this whole group, right?
Yeah, it's like, whoa, right? It's like, whoa. And I guess if you want to get people that reaction, set the expectations really low. That's probably a bad strategy. Yes.
So, my company, MetaMason, we make cloud-based customizable medical devices that are 3D.
I love your company.
Thank you. Microsoft right now is doing leading things in the 3D scanning space with ConnectV2. They're doing leading things in the healthcare space with Microsoft Health Vault.
Yep.
They're doing amazing things in the AR space with HoloLens. The missing component that we would like to see from them, and frankly would like to work with them on, is cloud-based GPU computing, which Autodesk is doing with Spark and Amazon is also doing. Would that accelerator, the one that you're talking about, be the appropriate access point to start to try to get into Microsoft to connect some of those different entities on collaboration?
I think you'd be a great candidate for Microsoft. I know digital health. Someone said that to me. Is that you? Digital health is a hot area, so we should talk. And part of this is they're looking for companies that integrate multiple aspects of what they do. I'm sorry, I'm so full of stories, but when you ask Microsoft what made Microsoft, it wasn't the OS originally that was built into PCs. I mean, that was original Microsoft. What really got them into the enterprise was Microsoft Office Suite, right? And they'll tell you that. And the big innovation in Microsoft Office was the integration cross-compatibility of Excel, PowerPoint, and Word, right? And I think as they think about cloud compute, it's how do we think about 3D printing, business analytics, big data, those things as a platform. So I think companies like yours that are kind of pulling these pieces together would be particularly interesting. So yeah, I think that would be an interesting conversation. Yeah, please.
I'm James Parlay,
Hey, James.
and I am part of a startup called Mirror Data Systems, and we build software for managing large wind plants, so think of renewable energy. My question is that you mentioned that you thought 50% of the value of the accelerator was your peer group, and I was wondering if you could talk about your peer group a little bit more on that other half of the value.
Yeah, please. Good question. So they're all over the country, right? Only one company is from the Pacific Northwest. 3 companies relocated their businesses from other places permanently to Seattle, right? Of course, one company moved from Detroit, so I don't know if that was a huge turnout. So what's interesting about the companies is they all are unique and compelling in their own way, but all have kind of weaknesses, right? I think part of this is they actually look at that and say, oh, these people are incredible coders and blah, blah, blah. So it's a team from Austin called Cloud Choreo. And Lily, you have any technical question, not only do they answer it, the guy will write the code for you right there. I'm like, how do you make that work? Oh, okay, thank you very much. Like, you asked me to write code, I'm like, oh, not Morse code. Okay, regular code. So that's one group, right? Like that's really amazing. There's another group called Lionheart, where they're out of Colorado, and they don't know anything about tech. But her story is about creating a collaborative platform for people who have dependents that have serious health issues. And her son, whose name is Lion, needed a heart transplant before he was 1. Okay? And they told him that he wouldn't live until he's 2. He's 6 years old, right? And part of it has been an epic kind of coordination of resources. And so she is a storyteller, right? Different, I mean, doesn't know anything about tech. And they'll look at her and say, for her question is, how do I build tech around this story to create collaboration for caregivers that are, as you can imagine, when you have a heart transplant at 1 year old, you are on permanent caregiving requirements, right? And so anyway, I think part of this is that they look at a mosaic of skills around companies that are extraordinary in different ways. And I think part of the magic is choosing not just 14 great companies, but ones that have skills in different areas so they actually can help each other. I think probably have time for one more.
Yeah, I think that's the last question. Yeah, one more? All right, last question.
So years ago when I used to work with Microsoft regularly, one of the things that was immediately noticeable was that you'd walk around and it was kind of like being part of the Borg. Like, everyone just had Microsoft stuff up on their wall. Like you talked about Ballmer throwing out the phone. Well, this was throughout the organization, and people wouldn't have pictures of their kids or pictures. Like, it was kind of creepy. You really felt like it was a forced lifestyle. Has that changed when you walk around the campus?
Yeah, let me show you my Microsoft tattoo. It has changed. And I think not because someone took the Microsoft posters down. I think more so because the monolithic view of dominance has changed, right? And thinking about relationships, interactions beyond who is Microsoft. What used to be kind of we will boss you into using our stuff because you must use our stuff has been guess what? People through APIs and interoperability and open source, we will work around you, right? And going back to my LinkedIn story, I will guarantee you, in the next 2 years, there will be an alternative to LinkedIn that will be as good or better than LinkedIn.
Wow.
Okay? Because part of it is like, innovators can't be stopped. And in the Microsoft world, they could be 10 years ago. But I guarantee you there's literally thousands, tens of thousands, maybe 100,000s of people who are pissed off that LinkedIn doesn't give them data anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
And that creates a resurgence and an ability for people to innovate. In many ways, thank you, LinkedIn, for creating an opportunity for there to be a better LinkedIn. Right? And I think what Microsoft has realized that strategy was what made them successful 10, 20 years ago does not make it anymore. And the fact that there isn't kind of Microsoft paraphernalia everywhere really is a manifestation of the realization that they don't have all the answers. Right? Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks for letting me fill in.
Yeah, before we go, so I touched on it before we started, but Andy co-founded Innovate Pasadena. He started this group. This group's been going on for a couple years now. There's almost 2,000 members just in our group that meets weekly. You've been a huge asset to the community. What can we do to help you?
I'm gonna take the mic.
Well, showing up here is an important part of it, right? And I am an absolute junkie around innovation, right? And I know innovation is a team sport, right? So coming out here and being on the field today is an important part of what we're doing. So keep that up. I also think part of our vision is creating a framework, a portfolio of opportunities for people to connect. So if you're passionate about a topic, right, 3D printing, I would encourage you to take advantage of our program innovator capability to start a meetup group that gets people who share that same passion together, right? Because it is really hard, and this is what the Accelerator is about at Microsoft, to solve problems on your own. So go out, take what you're learning here and take the benefit if you think you got benefit and say, how can I create my own collaboration with the people that I can connect with so we can collectively solve my problems and their problems together, right? That's what the innovation community is about. So that would be my challenge to you. I also will do a small commercial. So we have a new mayor in Pasadena, Terry Tornick. I was involved in his campaign. And I think this innovation message is so important that I am trying to backfill his seat as a councilman in District 7 for our city. And not because I want to be a politician. I will say there's some analogies to Microsoft and maybe how I think of political bureaucracies. But I think this message around improving the world we live in through technology and collaboration and the jobs it can create is super important. So I'm hoping I can have an opportunity to take that to kind of the city level and make this really a part of who we are as a community, not just in cross campus, but across Pasadena. So if that happens, I'll let you know. We may have more opportunities. But thanks for coming out and thanks for hosting. It's always a pleasure, especially on a Friday morning.
All right, let's see you guys photo on the end here. All right, you ready? Your marks, get set, go. Yes, thank you.
I should be talking. Hold on.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Your marks, get set, go.